everyone. I'm Michelle Brubaker, and I'm here with my very dear friend and mentor, Renie Duvall. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. I know that Renee is going to have some wonderful information to share with you. She has had a journey that has spanned from little dollars to multi-million dollars, and then a journey of difficulty, but also through amazing success. And I know that her story is going to inspire. It's going to motivate you, and then we're going to tell you how you can learn more about her too. So Renee, starting right off, tell us your journey. Where did you start at? How did you get going in your business? And I know you have multiple businesses that you've owned. Mm-hmm. So tell our listeners or our audience here about you.
All right. Just the short version is that I come from nowhere special. I was born on an island. I was a military child. My dad moved us around quite a bit. I was raised on farms. I was raised with no silver spoon in my mouth. So I come from a background that's pretty typical for most Americans. I went and did the military thing for 20 years, came back from that, went into business in the semiconductor industry, and after about 18 years I got laid off. Well, that's pretty typical. It was one of those things. What goes up must come down. So I went to another job that was somewhere in business in the semiconductor industry, and I got laid off after a couple of years. And so I just moved on to the next progressional thing that was more in semiconductor, and after about the third year, I got laid off a third time. In 5 years, 3 layoffs. I just kept hitting my head on that corporate glass ceiling and got sick of it. So what I decided to do was to just quit working for someone else and work for myself.
All right.
So, yeah, go girl.
Go girl.
Go girl. So found my girl power, but it was 50 years old when I found it.
Wow.
So I had always been entrepreneurial. I started out with a worm farm when I was 10 years old on the farm, and I've always had a business running in the background while I worked for someone else. But today, I decided to run businesses for myself, and one of my things that I always wanted to do was to build a brick-and-mortar business. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't ask very many questions, and that led me into some problems later down the road, but I digress and get ahead of myself. So the first thing I did is I just opened up a business and started doing what I knew, which was to sell silicon wafers. And in the semiconductor industry, anyone that knows what a silicon wafer is, there's a picture of one. I don't know if anybody can see it or not, but it's what makes a microchip for your computers. So I took that chip and I found a way to recycle those wafers into the solar market. Because no one was doing it. And these were going into the landfill by the millions of tons, and there was no way they were ever going to degrade. So I'm a recycling person, and on a farm you never throw anything away. You come from a farm.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Never throw anything away. Everything's recyclable. So I opened up a company that recycled silicon wafers back to the solar markets. And I did this in 2005. Was the last time I had been laid off, and I decided then I was just going to work for myself. Never again would I work for corporate. And I opened up the doors with $1,000 with borrowed credit, not cash, borrowed credit from a customer.
Wow. So you didn't even have money to start a business yourself.
I didn't have business because I didn't have money, because I didn't come from money. I had no family that could support me that way. And I needed capital, working capital, to buy the first products to sell. So I went to some of my friends, and this is really good business advice for anybody looking to build a new business. If you've been in an industry for a very long time, look to the people you've already worked with, because if you have any credibility with them, they will extend credit to you. And you can start a new business with $0, just like I did.
Wow. So you had that $1,000, and then what did you do? What did you do with
Well, I opened up a company, and on paper it cost me $20 to open up a company in Washington State. And I told my friend that I wanted to borrow his credit. He said yes. And I had no way of knowing whether I was going to be successful. But I did is I took his $1,000 worth of silicon wafers, sold them to a second party. I did not encroach on my old business. I went to customers that they had thrown away. And there's a whole story about that later. However, I took that $1,000 and made it $1,500. So I took the first $500, put it back into the business, got some more credit, more wafers, and sold them again. And I made my first $1,000 and paid my first month's rent.
There you go. Wow, good for you.
But I signed the lease for a year, not knowing whether or not I could even pay the rent.
So you took a risk.
Oh, yeah. A big risk.
A big risk.
I asked my husband if he would, go on with me and do this. And ladies, if you have a husband that's as endearing to you as mine was, he wasn't very supportive. So my suggestion is, if you really truly feel in your heart and in your gut that you have something you can make some money on, just go ahead and take the risk and do it. You'll find a way if you want it bad enough. And in this case, I asked my husband. He said no. And I said, okay. So I let him go to work, and I went ahead and signed the lease. And I worked there 3 months before my husband ever found out that I had a company outside of my home.
Oh, but you were making money.
I made lots of money. The first 3 months, I made $850,000.
Did you $850,000, like as in six figures?
Six figures?
Over $750,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, so then he instantly forgiveness for that, for starting a business, right?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
Wasn't enough. He decided I needed to make more.
And you did. So you made $850,000 from that first $1,000. Then what did you do after that?
I took that money and I just kept putting it back into the business. I had to hire
recycling again, huh?
Recycling, yes.
That's what you do.
I hired some of my unemployed family, and God love them. But I brought them on, and I had 3 or 4 people. In fact, my father, who was 87 years old at the time, I brought him on as my CFO to manage money. I know how to make it, and I'm really good at spending it. So I had to put a buffer between me and the cash, and so that was my father.
Wow.
And then I hired a daughter and a sister, and I needed hands-on because we were shipping a lot of material overseas to China. And so I became an international business by lieu of not importing but exporting wafers that were literally going into the ground, into landfill, and big semiconductors like SEH America, where I came from, 18 years, were just trashing that material and spending thousands of dollars to put it in landfill. So I was taking product like that and then reselling it to the solar markets.
Nice.
And they made solar wafers out of them.
Wow. So then you created this recycling company, and then, how long was it till you worked on your next company? How did you transition, transition point?
What I did is I just kept taking the money that I was making, and I was parlaying back into the next companies. The first full year, let me just digress a little bit, back step. The first full year, we went from that $850,000 in that first 3 months. The first full year, the next year in 2006, I parlayed that into a $3 million bill. The following year, I decided that the company name didn't match what I was doing, so I changed the name of our company. And at that time, we needed a bigger space. So I chose to move to a new location, which was a warehouse. It was about 1,800 square feet. And I got interviewed for chipping away at the silicon market in Clark County's silicon wafer industry.
Oh, that's awesome. Let me hold that so everybody can see, because that's you there with the silicon industry.
Yeah, bad hair day. Bad hair day. So anyway, we walked into this business and building, and we parlayed this into. I bought some equipment. I got myself a heister and some overheads and more storage area. I hired 10 more people to work for me, and so we ended up with 12 or 14 people at that time, and we had a 3-year lease in this building. And so this business went to, we went from $3 million to $9 million, and in
just a couple of years.
In our second year.
Wow.
Those are gross numbers. That wasn't $9 million in my pocket.
Yeah, but you're onto something here now, because you started where there was not any industry recycling these parts, and then you created a system. It
just happened. I felt like I was just blessed because I was in the right time. But truly, it's just because I left my ears open and I listened to what was being needed in the industry. And so because people needed to have a place to recycle, and because the solar markets were getting heated up during that time, I was actually one of the industry leaders to get to set the price. And if you're first in any business,
first to market,
there's money to be had. So what I did is I kept taking the money from the company. I had more employees, more space, I could buy more equipment and pay off. I could buy more material, and the more I bought, the more I made. And then the prices just kept going up. The trick here is to know when you top the top of the Richter scale. But about this time in 2007, Congressman Brian Baird walked through my door. In fact, here's a news article where he says, U.S. Baird, speaking about my ownership here, he said he nominated me for the SBA's 2009 Washington State Small Business Person of the Year Award. And he said a quote.
I want to show that.
Okay. He told a quote one time. He said, if Renee was, you found her under the Webster Dictionary, you'd find her under entrepreneur. And so he told me he thought that I should open up a recycling business. He kind of planted a seed. And the SBA came over and did the same thing. They said, we need a huge recycling center here in the state of Washington.
Wonderful.
So with that, I went looking for a building or some place that I could grow into, and I found a place up in Longview, Washington. I hired a gentleman out of Texas who came to work for me, and he was going to be my chief operations officer. And so I bought $1.5 million building, which is capital expenses, huge tax write-off. I went to a different county because I got better tax results from that than staying in the local county. And we built that first business into $9 million, or the second business into a $9 million business the second year. So,
well, you're fast too. Not only are you good, but you're fast.
Well, it's just because the prices kept going up. Semiconductor industry stuff. Scrap was $0.
Wow.
And then it went to, it was like turning it into gold.
Wow.
So it went from probably about $30 a kg. By the time we were done in 2008, it had gone to almost $500 a kg.
Wow.
Huge.
That's beyond huge.
And for anybody that knows what a kg is, it's 2.246 ounces, or it's very...
2 1/4?
Yeah, grams. It's
grams.
not. It's not very much. So it doesn't take very long to shoot those prices right up.
Wow.
So this was like having gold in my hand. And so we bought a building. We brought in an expert that could run the business. And while he was running my second business, I was still in Vancouver running my first. And then my friend died. My VP died. And it was devastating. And anybody that's running a business, it's a huge loss. So he was a friend of 30 years and also, my chief operations officer and VP. So having that loss, I had to react quite quickly. I had 2 businesses open and there's only one of me. And I couldn't be running between Vancouver and Longview every day to run both. So I decided to close down the Vancouver operation and then put it over on top of the one in Vancouver.
And focus in one.
Since I had a building now I owned, or at least the bank owned it and I did. I got one of the first loans in the Washington State for women under the electronic version system. So first one to go through the state. And bought the building on a 540. And that means that I put 10% down, the banks did it 50%, and the SBA put the other 40% guarantee on there. So I picked up my building, and again with monies I'd earned from previous, and I loaned the money from one business to the next. So I kept separate books, which is highly important. Never commingle your funds, ever. So you take one set of books and you keep that for that business, you keep another set of books for the new business. But this business needed money. So I loaned myself money from this business to this corporation. And I did this over a period of years, 2 or 3 times, 4 times. So the next business was built. I created a land opportunity to hold the property. So it was my RMD Holdings, which was my business holding for the building and the land I owned. So that was one that didn't need management. And from the monies I had been earning from those first 2 businesses, I parlayed that into a third business, which was a recycling business in Kalama, Washington. And by the 3rd year, we were at 27 million, something in that, 24, 27. It's been too many years ago. But it was pretty awesome. And then 2008 hit, and that kind of sucked. But
2008 as in the economy that tanked.
I called it the economic perfect storm.
Oh no. So things came crashing down. basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you went from laid off to borrowing $1,000 from a friend to $850,000 to $3 million, $9 million, $27 million, $30 million something, and to storm crash. Wow. How did that feel at the time to have all that success over just so fast over a few years just come crashing?
To me, it started feeling like monopoly. I didn't, at first, one of the biggest things I had was the fear factor of writing that first check, $1,000 check. And then the next big hurdle for me was the $10,000 check, and then the $100,000 check. And when I wrote my first $1 million check, it was like, oh, it's just a check, it's no big deal. And so it became, but I'm telling you, there was a fear factor in every time I did this, stepping up to that next level and getting over having to fight that urge to go, am I doing the right thing?
How do you get over that? How do you get over that risk? I mean, some fear is healthy, but at the same time, you need to balance that with the risk. So how does a person do that? Let's say somebody out there wants to start a business and they're afraid, or they haven't experienced taking risk before and how to push through those obstacles. How does a person overcome that?
Well, I think training, maybe some of the old age had finally crept in and everything. I was past the fear factor of, I needed to succeed. My recommendations today will not be the same as what I actually did, which was I took no advice from anyone. I thought I knew everything. It's not healthy. It's not recommended. I highly suggest that if you're going to do a business, you seek out mentors and that you seek out people that can help you along the way. And there is so much, and so much free advice.
Oh, yes.
Huge amounts of free advice. So you get to go, and you can go to the SBA, or you can go to the women's organizations like OMWBE or PTAC, which is the for the people that have been in military or have had some military background. But there's just tons of them. There's huge amounts of business organizations in every state, and especially for women-owned businesses. And there are just a slew of people looking for women-owned businesses today, that especially if you're a veteran or if you're a veteran disabled veteran owner. So they can't find enough of you. And I know we have a ton, but you ladies are not stepping up the game, and they need you. And you could be making a small fortune just from the government. So with guaranteed income, if you get to the right people.
Well, that's good advice. So if there's any ladies out there who are military or retired military, veterans
and or disabled veterans that are trying to start a business or have a business.
There's all kinds of resources out there.
They're wonderful. But I didn't know about them. And until I had been in this business for several years, and then all of a sudden I had people knocking. I started getting recognized in awards and all sorts of things throughout the state. And the OMWBE in Washington State actually got me hooked into some of these organizations. So then all of a sudden I realized I had tons of help out there. You just had to ask for it.
That's great.
And it's free.
Wow.
There's no cost.
Wow. So. Well, I know that you're such an inspirational person. I know, and that's the reason I invited Renie here to share her story with everyone out there too, because you've inspired me going from laid off multiple times. The company I worked for closed down, moved all operations overseas. We all lost our jobs, and I had to transition into the computer geek girl that I am now today too. And so I know how it's scary at that moment, but wow, on the other side, what you can do. And now you're inspiring other women. You're speaking. You're an author. There's so much about you out there. So I want to just tell everybody how great that is. Renie has a book. It's called Tiger Tactics: Strategies for a Successful Business. This is just one of your first books. I know you're working on another one now with forward by the famous Robert Allen too, who's a very good friend of yours. And that's exciting. So tell us, what are your books about?
Well, just like it says, business strategies. And these books are written for women, but the strategies work for men as well. So, this is a tickler to the big one. The big one's called White Tiger Tactics. And why a white tiger?
Yeah, why White Tiger Tactics?
This is kind of our working page for a website that Michelle's building for me. So anyway, White Tiger Tactics. White Tiger because of the strength and character of the tiger and the tenacity it takes to find the courage to do this. To be out
awesome.
there. But the White Tiger because of the rarity. Women business owners entrepreneurs that are $1 million women-owned businesses don't happen, very, very rarely. And in the wilds, there are no more white tigers that they can find. That genetics has been lost to us in the wild. So you can only see a white tiger now in zoos and acts in Vegas, but or private ownership. But the white tiger is so rare, was so rare even when it was actively out there, that it's the same as a woman-owned business that makes it to $1 million. And I took my company, my first company, I said to $3 million, my second company to $9 million, my third company to $27 million, my fourth company somewhere around $35-37 million right now, and it's still actually going. Although I'm not running it today, I have a VP and operations operator that's running it right now. I'm currently taking the time out because I'm pushing 60, and I'm not afraid to tell anyone that I'm the most active 60-year-old you'll ever meet.
You are, because you travel the country and the world and scuba diving and African safaris, right? So
I'm having a great time. I'm actually checking off my bucket list, and one of them was to write a book.
Yeah.
So this one is the tickler to the next one, which is about 300 pages. I'm trying to pare that down a couple pages. And you're right, Robert Allen is writing the foreword to it. He is my personal mentor. He's got me on Multiple Streams of Income, which is one of his very popular books.
I've read that.
He's got me doing some network marketing type stuff, and I'm doing that on the side as some residual income, and writing my book, public speaking, mentoring, coming to organizations and different companies.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Wow. Well, for our audience today, what would be some steps that you would encourage people to do? You talk about 7 strategies for business, steps for success. What are some of those keys that helped you to take those leaps of faith and do those things? What are some steps that you would recommend?
Well, there's about 100,000 of them, but you have to pick and choose. And so I actually would like to go back to December of 2008, when I was kind of at the pinnacle of my $27 million. And I was interviewed when I opened up my business up in Longview. And one of the things that I came up with is 7 keys to success. So one is to be passionate, because if you're not working and doing what you want, you will bore of it very fast, you will get tired, and you will just quit it. You will not stick with it. So be passionate. Love what you do. You are going to sleep with it. You are going to take it on vacation. You are going to go, on your honeymoon, with your anniversaries with it. It doesn't matter. I travel with it on everywhere I go.
So you better love what you're doing, is what you're saying.
Love what you're doing, because it follows you. It doesn't. You have to work harder at owning a business than you ever do at being an employee. Yeah.
And you're very passionate about it because you want to save those landfills.
I'm a tree hugger. I'm a natural tree hugger, so it is what it is. So by not throwing this stuff into landfill, we're saving our environment, and I'm doing it in a global sort of way. So I'm saving water and air pollutants. Huge amounts of electronics waste, which what I'm recycling now is not only silicon wafers, but semiconductor byproducts of the chip. So the plastics and the wood and the paper and the cardboard, everything that surrounds it, but all of the plastics that are inside the boards and the magnets and the steel, there is just tons and tons, and everything in a semiconductor, around a semiconductor chip, can be recycled.
That's great.
And so a computer can be recycled, every piece of it.
So you're, number one, be passionate.
Be passionate
About what you're doing.
Number 2, hire the best accountant you can afford. By far, probably the best advice I could give anybody is to don't try to be an accountant if you're not. I absolutely abhor taking a checkbook and keeping track of my numbers. Sad to say.
It's just not fun. I don't find it very fun.
I'm a numbers person about making the money.
Yeah.
I'm not a numbers person about how it's spent and keeping track of the finite details.
Yeah. So number 2, get a good accountant.
Get a good accountant. Okay. And buy the person that you can afford the best. You don't have to hire it as an employee. You can do that as an outsource.
Yeah, contracting.
Get some good recommendations to find a good one. I went through 9 before
9 accountants.
9 accountants before I found a good one.
Good.
So hire the best accountant you can afford. And if they're not quite as good, then go out and get yourself a CPA after that too. So have a CPA. You can even do a chief financial officer on a part-time basis. They're out there. You do not have to have these people working in your business as an employee. So when you're first starting out, accounting, by far.
Good advice.
Get past your fear factor. I think we kind of touched on that already. So, jump over your fear factor. And I just kept going in. Mary Kay, I was a Mary Kay consultant for many years, one of those side businesses I had. And one of the things that Mary Kay taught us was to find a way through, under, over, around any obstacle that you can, that you encounter. And there isn't a day goes by that there isn't something being thrown in your path that you have to get through, over, around, or above it.
Well, she was a wonderful woman, Mary Kay Ash.
She was awesome.
Kind of like you. She started with, $500 or something and created $1 billion organization.
And look, 50 years later, she's still going strong. I fortunately was in when Mary Kay was still alive, and had a chance to get to some of her seminars and stuff. It was a fabulous experience, and the training was immeasurable. And
yes. I believe she was one of the key women entrepreneurs of the 20th century.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the top
she had vision. She absolutely had vision. And so, yes. So, play to your strengths. One of my strengths is people and working with people and in sales. And so I know that I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to try and be an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to try and write legal contracts. But I play to my strengths. So I do what I do best. And any entrepreneur, you are a guru at what you do, but you may not like some other aspect of your business. So if you're not into shipping, or you don't, you can hire out. Again, you don't need an employee. You can hire other people to do what you have done for a lot less and a lot less hassle than you to set up an entire system to support that operation.
Sounds like a lot of work. So simplify.
Simplify. Provide outstanding customer service. And this isn't just about providing customer service to the people that are buying from you. This is about providing customer service to if you do have employees, treat them just like your customers. If you have vendors, customer service. Your support systems, anybody that is doing the periphery material work around you, so like your ITIS people, customer service. Without that, you might as well just close up shop, because you will get a reputation and no one will want to work with you, or no one will buy from you. So provide outstanding customer service to your family, to your friends, to your customers, your vendors, your suppliers. It makes no difference. Treat people like people and be human.
That's good advice.
Corporate doesn't always do that.
I know. I've been there.
I threw out everything I hated about corporate and just said, okay, I'm not doing that. So I don't make my salespeople, when we have a meeting, they don't have to keep notes unless they want to. Because quite frankly, they're going to take minutes and they're never going to read them again. So what's the point? Anyway, some of the corporate stuff is important, but there's a lot of things you could do without. A good business ethic goes a very long way. Business ethics, number one. Again, it's integrity. Do not cheat anyone. Do not cheat yourself.
Ever.
Exactly. Don't cheat. So whenever here, don't cheat your customers, your suppliers, vendors, employees. I spent 25 years when I first started out doing customer service work, and one of the things that followed me was my business ethics. And people followed me and still follow me today because of that, because I had a reputation.
That says something. It really does, So, and an unfortunate thing is those that have integrity and high ethics like we do, people think they can take advantage and cheat us, which has happened to me, and I know it's happened to you in a really bad way. So
that's why I wrote this book, and the other book is so that
prevent that from happening.
In the course of building a business, there are certain things
going to happen.
You need to put into play. You're going to put some money into building your business along the way, but there's a lot of ways that you can do it inexpensively. Instead of finding out on the after fact that you didn't put the right thing, you didn't make an employee's handbook because you had one employee. Just not having that can keep you out of court. Just
cover your butt on everything.
CYA is what we call the military. CYA. All right. So, and then my seventh one is to be a good steward of the earth. So in my case, I bought green energy credits, and I'm doing what I can to give back. But again, being a good steward is just being a good steward in everything. So it's not just of the earth. You should provide a service that serves a function back to the community. Give something back. If your business doesn't support that, then when you become prolific enough money-wise to support your voluntary businesses or people that you want to help along the way, give
philanthropy and charitable.
Absolutely. So you find, even if it's donating some of your time or giving some of your people the opportunity to go work in some voluntary system. As an example, I had an employee that wanted to be in search and rescue. And I'm a scuba diver, you mentioned that earlier, and he wanted to learn how to be a scuba diver in search and rescue. That's for recovery of bodies, unfortunately. Usually at that point it's not, they're not going to find someone, but it's quite expensive to get certified. So I put down the money personally. I didn't take that out of the business. I personally supported him to go and get his lessons so he becomes a certified diver to enhance his search and rescue. On top of that, as an employer, I allowed him, if the call came up, if your brother, son, daughter, whatever, mother, husband is lost in the mountains because they've been hiking or on a mountain and they all of a sudden don't show up on their destiny at a certain time, the call goes out, and there's a lot of search and rescue organizations. So they just put out the call, and I allowed this man to go out and go on the call, whether he was working for me or not. If he was in the building and he got the call, he was allowed to go, and he was continued to be paid.
That's wonderful.
So it wasn't a huge big deal, but it might have meant the difference between somebody living and dying because he was on the job, and it was one of the things I could do. It didn't cost a lot of money, and I let him go. And then he didn't get to cheat his family out of the income he was earning for his wife and 2 children.
Wow.
So you can give back in just so many different ways. And so
being successful isn't just about you making a lot of money or being successful and building a name. It's about giving back also to others.
Absolutely.
And then those people in turn, he's able to help others. So it's indirectly you're making the world a better place altogether all around.
And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah. So to be successful so that you can help make those other people successful and then ripple it out to the rest of the world.
It is, and it is the ripple effect. Kristen White, who's a friend of mine, she has a TV show, and she puts on something called the ripple effect. And so, you drop the pebble in the water, and you get that concentric circles that just keep going out there and out there and out there. And it's the same thing with doing good. So, as I call it, paying forward. You've seen that movie, Paying It Forward. I love that show. So, you do good for one person, and you see somebody that needs help. You can afford to give them some help. A gentleman at the airport was $15 shy of needing money to get home on a ticket. I just gave him this. I paid the rest of the ticket so he could get on the airplane. And I don't know whether he was grateful or not. And he goes, I can send it back to you when you get home. And I said, no, this is the next time you get an opportunity and you're in the right place, pay it forward, give it back to somebody else.
That's wonderful.
And I do that a lot. So it's the way it is.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. As we wrap up, Renie, what are some final closing words of encouragement you might share with the folks that are watching this today? How would you encourage them to step out and take those steps and follow their dreams?
Well, the first thing is if you really have a dream and you know deep in your heart and your psychic that you need to do something, then just do it. I mean, Nike's got it nailed. Just do it. If you don't know how to do it, seek the help that you need to get to the point where you can do it. It's always good to probably journal if you're journaling your thoughts or whatever, or you're writing down some ideas and you've got an idea for a business, or you want to promote something, your hobby become a business, and you're not sure how to do that. There's so much free help out there. Absolutely, just ask. Go go to your chambers of commerce and go to and ask those people. You can go into those meetings free. That doesn't cost you anything to go in and ask the questions. So
and the small business development.
SBA, yes, absolutely. SCORE is another good one for the senior people that are entrepreneurs of the past, and now they're out helping other businesses. There's coaches. Tons of coaches online
and mentors.
And mentors. Be very careful with your coaching on who you pick. Find someone that's recommended and that has a good track record. We don't want anyone to be taken advantage of. So I myself, I do coaching too, but I do it in a different fashion than most, where I do boots on the ground. But the thing is, again, back to the idea of, if you have an idea, you want to build a business, find the people that can help you and just take action. And action backed with commitment. Do not let anything stop you. It was like running that first business, and my husband said no. I went, okay, honey, I love you. Go on to work, and I'll see you later. And I just
little did he know.
3 months later, here's telling my sister over the phone, and all of a sudden he's got instant, super hearing. He hears everything I said. So he found out the hard way. But
he found out the hard way that you're over $750,000.
I couldn't believe that $850,000 wasn't enough, but it wasn't. So I don't think he was even convinced at $3 million. But he ended up, he's a happy camper, so he's got nothing to complain about. But no, take action. Absolutely.
Take action.
Do not
step out and do it.
Find somebody that can hold your hand if you need it. If you need the help, go find someone in SBA, SCORE, women's organizations. Get the help and make it happen. Just take action and be fully committed and convicted to do it. And don't let anything or anyone stop you.
That's excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope you enjoyed today my interview with Renie Duvall. I'm Michelle Brubaker. Thanks for watching our video today.